What's happening? What's going on, everybody? It's been a while. It is the Going Broadway podcast. Alex and Cole are back. We've returned. Thank you guys so much for being patient with us. We apologize for the hiatus. We got lots to cover. Cole, what's happening?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining the greatest wrestling podcast ever. We are excited to be back, and it's going to be a good night. There is about a bajillion things to talk about, seeing how we haven't talked in forever.
Andrew, just so you know, I mean, this is only a joke that I can crack, so to speak, as far as the cheesiness, but it's not really us. It's artificial intelligence. We're just AI, but you know, for what it's worth. But anyway, yeah, we got a lot to cover. Thanks again so much for just being patient with us as we navigate life, so to speak. Cole, you want to update everybody on kind of what your situation has been like over the last few weeks?
Scenario. So as many of you know, for the longest time I've traveled and I've done Christian hip hop, and this is my last year doing that. And with that being said, I had to make some changes, and one of those changes was I had to go get me a big boy job. I had to go get me a real job. And so I am actually the GM of a trampoline park here in the area, and to say the very least, it's been full of challenges, and I have been working 65 hours plus as Hulk Hogan falls down in the background.
I got to show you this here in just a second too.
I've been working about 65 hours plus trying to get this park back up to code, get the staffing right. They're in the middle of a remodel, as well as changing point of sale systems and all that good, fun stuff. And I've been dealing with that amongst the shows and the life that goes around all of that as well. So I have been extremely busy, hence why you haven't seen us. It's been more on me than on Alex, because
not necessarily. I mean, it was my fault last week because my internet was screwy. That's literally all it came down to. But no, I mean, it's been busy on my end too. So, I mean, it's not fair for Cole to say it's his fault. It's nobody's fault. I mean, you know, if this podcast were a big boy job, then obviously we wouldn't be taking a hiatus, is what it comes down to. But, you know, unfortunately, as it stands right now, you know, Cole working 50, 60 hours a week. I myself, you know, some of you know, I've been looking for another job for the last month and a half, but at the same time have really taken advantage of that, opportunity to spend more time with my family, more time with my kids, which means helping with the homeschool aspect of things. We also are taking a vacation later this month, which we will get to later on in the podcast during our announcements and such. But for tonight, we are back, and I got to show you this. My daughter made me this. She actually just finished it up, but they do a local co-op for kids that are homeschooled, and they do this thing called Pearl or Bead. I'd never even heard of it, but she made me this.
Oh, wow.
Like, that's just super detailed, and I'm trying to get the light tonight. Light to not shine on it as much, so you can actually, let me see if I can.
That's super cool, though.
Dim this light a little bit here. Let's see. But yeah, I mean, just it's like super detailed, and she made me that for my birthday. My birthday was at the end of April, and yeah, I just thought that was really cool. I mean, super. You obviously you can tell what it is. Like, you even called it out. You knew what it was.
So. It looks super cool. I actually have a John Cena one right here, and it's super cool too. It's super cool.
Well played. So well played that I have to play something. Hold it up again. Hold it up.
And his name is John Cena.
And there goes everyone's eardrums. I forgot how loud that was, but nonetheless, I am going to sound off something else so we can actually get started here. So, I was looking. It's been almost, give or take, it's been a month since we did a show. The last one we did was the recap for Mania, and anyway, so not to be what's the word I'm looking for? Not to be cliche, not to copy from someone else, but what do you guys want to talk about? Cole, what do you want to kick off with?
You know,
I mean, we're covering Backlash, so we'll get there. We have a new World Heavyweight Championship title of sorts that's, you know, that we're going to have crowned at the next premium live event. I'm still calling it a pay-per-view, whatever. Nick Aldis is with Impact.
You know what? Let's talk Impact for a second. We don't get off on
Impact doesn't get enough love.
These tangents. So we have two names really in Impact right now, because you also see Trinity making her debut there, and there's some interesting storylines going on, if you will. And I'll say this: Impact is stepping their game up. I mean, the crowds have been sold out. I don't know if you saw that here recently, but just about every crowd they've had here recently has been a sold out crowd. They're getting some big,
and
they're getting some big names there. You know, like Nick Aldis, that's a pretty big signing. Trinity, whether you like her or not, as far as the talent, she's got the name, she's got the draw as far as that goes. So, your thoughts on those two going to Impact and kind of how that shakes things up a little?
I'm going to make a bold prediction. So this would we do a segment off and on called Hot Takes. This will be a hot take for you. If all things considered, the trajectory kind of maintains its course throughout all wrestling promotions, I wouldn't be surprised if within the next, 2 years. Now, granted, and I can't exactly articulate what I'm thinking, but essentially you've got, in my opinion anyway, AEW is kind of leveled off, but Impact is really kind of stepping up their game as far as, I mean, their talent roster, their storylines, and I don't even watch it that much, but I watch it enough to where I know that they're on the right trajectory. That being said, I wouldn't be surprised if there is conversation within the next year or two that Impact is in the conversation for that number 2 company in the US against AEW. And I was telling some of you guys that are familiar with our show know that we have a friend named Austin. We go to his house every so often to watch events, and he's into wrestling. He's more of a New Japan guy. I was talking with him today, and just mentioned we're just kind of talking about wrestling in general, and I told him that Impact is really something to keep an eye on, especially. They have that off and on partnership with New Japan. I mean, you can't discount who they're working with at any given time, because we could wake up tomorrow and they could be doing, another one of those multiverse of matches events or whatever they called it. But I like the fact that Impact is open to working with any and every organization out there. They're not sort of blackballing, so to speak, like WWE does, in a sense. Not as bad as they used to be, but Impact is just like, yeah, we understand we're not the only wrestling organization in the US, much less in the world. And so I like that their mentality, the mentality they have of saying, okay, yeah, absolutely. Let's work together. Let's find a way to, let's make money together. Let's, improve both of our products. So that all being said, I like Nick Aldis's decision. Apparently, that was in part due to WWE's alleged hiring freeze. Again, keyword there is rumor. I don't know. Trinity was not a huge surprise. This is where I hate the dirt sheets coming into play, is because Impact actually announced her appearance prior to it even happening, because it got picked up on by, the dirt sheets, for lack of a better way to word it, people with Fightful, PW Insider, etc. And would they have done so ahead of time despite that? Maybe, maybe not. I don't really know. They could have just announced it ahead of time to help with, the ratings boost. I'm one of those that, I'm not on the Andrew bandwagon. I don't dislike Trinity, but as of now, I do think she is more on the overrated side. Now, that being said, I do like Impact's logic in the fact that, hey, she got a lot of publicity with this WWE exit. Let's capitalize on it. I don't see anything wrong with that whatsoever. And I think she improves their women's division anyway, even if she is, in my opinion, overrated. I hope she proves me wrong. And inevitably, what it comes down to is I want every single U.S. promotion to succeed, AEW included. I know we've ripped on them a lot lately, me in particular. I want them to succeed. I love the fact that they're, filling Wembley Stadium and almost to 70,000 sold, allegedly. And by the way, I don't say allegedly to sound demeaning. They may have sold 70,000. If they have, awesome, fantastic, love it. Kind of putting a bow on my thoughts. I love where Impact is going. If anything, it makes me want to prioritize watching it when I have time.
Yeah, I think you capitalized on a couple good points. Number one, if they're definitely going to step it up, Nick Aldis is definitely the guy to have on your roster to put the belt on. I mean, let's be real. No one was talking about NWA until Nick Aldis was involved. So Nick Aldis had kind of put them on the map and whatnot. So I like the Nick Aldis signing and kind of what it does for them. And let's just call it what it is. If AEW didn't have someone backing it that had millions and billions of dollars to throw at it off the jump, AEW would be right where Impact is right now. They're without the budget to pay for these things and to set them up to feel and look like a bigger company than what they really are. They're the same as far as storyline, as far as talent, as far as all those things. That they're pretty spot on even. I don't think that it's an unbalanced thing. So get Impact somebody who has money that's willing to throw it all into their company, and they're on the same playing field. Exactly. I mean,
and I love that they're making new stars. Excuse me, but having this sort of like power couple with Macklin and Peraza, who are married in real life. I think they're at least married together, but I think they're married.
I think they're married now.
But that being said, I love the trajectory. I love the direction they're going in. I even like the fact that so I don't know how many of you guys saw this, but apparently Matt Cardona has wrapped up with them or will be wrapping up his time. I like the fact that they are still doing business the right way, in the sense that, so Cardona was just on a handshake deal, but was on a handshake deal for a long time. I mean, a year or two. I don't know what the exact timeline was exactly. You guys can elaborate on that if you know for sure. But I think it's good for them to lock people down when and where they can. Because look, the indies make a bunch, Cardona specifically, you can make a lot of money on the indies, as he's shown, as he's proven. But if you're doing GCW just as an example, obviously that's more of a hardcore, rougher type setting. You know, he plays the role of the whole deathmatch king and this and that. Who's to say he won't be injured on a GCW show? And even if he's on a handshake deal with Impact, if they advertise him for a big show and then he gets injured,
Yeah.
you know, then what? So I even think from that standpoint, even though that Cardona is supposedly wrapped up with him, I think that's the right call. You know, if they can't come to terms on a contract, then just, you know, part on good terms, leave the door open for working together down the road if he wants to commit to excuse me, if he wants to commit to a year, 6 months, whatever.
Yeah, and the other point you brought up was good too. Is Trinity the best women's wrestler out there? No, she's she's not. What is she? She's a merch seller. She's a huge. She is impacts Bianca Belair from the standpoint of that the kids will love her. The merch, the character really caters to young girls, to the female audience. The dancing, the upbeat, the fun. That's great. That's great for live shows. That's great for paper. That's a crowd boost for sure. On top of that, she does have a name. She's been a women's champion in WWE, and she was a homegrown talent in WWE. So this is one of the things I love. She actually brought this up in her promo, when she came out. Impact has a pretty rich women's division history, though. You look at names like Mickie James, Gail Kim, Awesome Kong. Jazz has, kind of been there on and off. You go through and you look at some of their own homegrown talent as well.
Victoria, Tara, whatever her name
Yeah,
was.
Victoria was there. You look at who they've brought in, who they've revamped, who they've allowed to have that platform, and it's been absolutely amazing for them. And so I think this is great for her to kind of test her own wrestling skills, to kind of grow herself into hey, no lie though, the beautiful people were a staple in their women's division. They you got to give them their flowers too. So it's one of those things for me where I think it's really cool that she's going to get the opportunity to really show who she is without the WWE product and machine kind of pushing her.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that she took that chance on herself too. Like, I think it's commendable that she was able to say, you know what, I'd like to try to prove myself beyond just being the person that gets cheered because my music and my lights and my merch is cool.
Yeah.
And so that's really, really cool. And I'm excited to see what they do with her. And like you said, publicity, even bad publicity is good publicity sometimes. And so it's cool that they capitalized on her name, and I'm very interested to see what they do moving forward.
So while we're on the Impact topic, I want to tie in something to another story that's out there. Given the contract situation, do you think Drew McIntyre ends up in Impact?
So here's my thought, and I know all the dirt sheets are screaming, he's not signed a deal with WWE yet. He's on his way out. All these different things. The telling sign for me that makes me think that he will actually stay with WWE was the fact that he got drafted, and he got drafted very high on the card during this WWE draft. He was like in the second round, I think. I can't remember. I just remember it was very early on. They announced where he was going. They made a big deal about it. If they wanted to keep him under the radar, number one, they wouldn't announced him at all, or he would have been one of those like signings off, air where they announced it like on Raw Talk or Talking Smack or any of those things. Is he's not in the World Heavyweight Championship tournament?
I don't think he's in the tournament.
No, I think there's 12 of them. Bobby Lashley, Rey Mysterio, The Miz.
I'm looking.
AJ.
So we got Seth, Finn, Damian Priest, Miz, Cody, Shinsuke, Edge, AJ, Bobby, Austin Theory, Rey Mysterio, and Sheamus. So yeah, Drew is not in the tournament.
Yeah, and they might be holding off just to make sure he signs, but I'm pretty sure he's still contracted through July. So there's still 2 months.
I mean, not to mention to your point, being in the draft, they didn't just like keep him status quo. They moved him from SmackDown to Raw.
Right, like they made it a point to say, I read today that Drew is under contract till 2024. I don't know the status of that. What my point is, the last I read, he was contracted through July, and a lot of times we actually don't know where the contracts actually end because of time off, injuries, all that stuff. But if that's true, what you guys are saying, that he's somewhere around 8 months away from being, there's so much time. Like this is one of the things I hate about the wrestling community and the dirt sheets and all that stuff. We start speculating things way too quick. We start jumping on, when the WWE announced that there's a potential sale with Saudi, like we were already like just going nuts and crazy. Like, we're done watching and I'm selling my belts and all this. I was like,
well, yeah, people were even saying like, this is definitely happening whenever, like we've talked about, there was no major business outlet reporting it. Like we would see it as we did on like CNBC, Bloomberg, whatever. Maybe Bloomberg's like the right good example, but
you saw how it was blowing up when they actually did sell. And so that's my point here is like, we're speculating something that would really shake the game. I'm sorry, unless Drew is like, you couldn't pay me enough money. Like there is not enough money in the world that you could pay me to stay, because he wants to just go somewhere else. WWE is not letting Drew McIntyre walk. They will come to terms on a contract. They will make sure that he is happy. He has been prominent in storylines on and in and out of the title picture. He's had great matches. If they had any speculation that he was really not going to sign, he wouldn't have had a spot on the WrestleMania card. We've seen what they do to people when they think they're not going to sign or they're not cooperating. What do? They take them off TV and they make them as obsolete as possible. Or
they keep them on TV and make them continually lose. Neither of which have been the case.
Burying, that they had him in a decent storyline with Karrion Kross. He just had one of the best matches on the WrestleMania card with Sheamus and Gunther. So I find it hard to believe at this point in time to even mention the idea of him going to AEW or the idea of him going to Impact. But I'll be completely honest with you. If I was Drew and if I didn't re-sign with WWE, I actually think out of all of them, this would intrigue me the most. I actually wouldn't mind to see him in New Japan.
Agree. And I was going the same direction too.
And the reason why I say that is we've seen him in Impact. That is a very low level pop for me. It would be cool in the moment for him to return back and do the Drew Galloway thing and all that stuff. AEW doesn't entice me at all because they've not proven to me once that they can get anybody over that isn't already in a friendship with the elite, that isn't all, now you're kind of seeing them use Adam Cole to an extent with him being back and whatnot, but they've not proven to me that they can take anybody else. They've not done it with Miro. They've not done it with Keith Lee. They've not really done a good job with Swerve. These are just names off the top of my head too. There's a million of them that they've just not done a very good job with as far as getting them over and making them have a prominent role. I don't like the idea of him even playing ball in ROH, and being a part of that, or this roster split that they're apparently going to do here in AEW. I think all of that, Drew would just be another name lost in the mix, unfortunately, not because he's bad, but because they don't know how to do it right. Yeah. Where in like New Japan, you're going to see matchup. Could you imagine Drew versus Suzuki? Like it would be a banger of a match. And that's just one that came to me off the top of my head. So if there was any thoughts, not to mention if he worked New Japan, he could work the indie scene. He could do all those things. I think it would be dumb of him to sign any deal with Impact. I don't think Impact could afford him, number one. If money is the driving factor right now, I don't think Impact has the truckload, if we will, to sign him. And AEW probably is the only one that has it to keep him solely that talent. Where if he was to go to New Japan, he'll get paid decent there, and again could work the indie scene, make one-off stints in some of these other companies as well. So that's where my mind is, though. I don't even think I could really, yeah, but they're not on a rehiring freeze. They're just on a hiring freeze. They're gonna sign their current talent back to their contracts.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we did the same thing with Kevin Owens too. That's what I'm saying. Like when Kevin Owens' contract was up, when Sami Zayn's contract was up, we were like, oh, surely they're best friends with all these people. They're they're gone. Second it happens, nope, re-signed, and now they are one of the hottest acts on their program.
Yeah. The only options okay, here's how I see this shaking out. More than likely, so I agree. More than likely, he's going to stay with WWE, even if they say we can't come to terms on a longer term deal. So let's keep you for another year or two at, just throwing out a number at $900,000 to $1 million a year. He's not going to Impact strictly for the money aspect. He was with Impact because they had, what's her name? Someone said it in the thread earlier. I can't for Dixie. They had the Carter family back then. They had, excuse me, just the ability to be able to pay out somebody an exorbitant amount of money. They can't do that right now.
Right.
While AEW can, the only way he leaves WWE is for a ridiculous amount of money. If AEW says, hey, we're going to pay you $2 million per year to come to AEW, which would be insane, stupid move in my opinion. Because anyway, whatever. But there is the option of going to, like you said, going to New Japan / doing the independent scene and making your money that way.
Right.
Something else we've not discussed, because I bring this up because a lot of guys in the wrestling business do this, making the jump to Hollywood. Not out of the realm of possibility, especially if he leaves WWE. Now, inevitably, and I think Chris said this earlier, inevitably, the rumor is he's going to be put in a storyline with the person who actually wins the World Heavyweight Championship tournament. Hence the reason he's not in the tournament, but he's going to play the heel role, which would make sense for him being moved over to the Raw brand. So was this conversation a moot point? Not necessarily, but I think not only is the whole Drew likely leaving WWE severely overhyped, I don't think
it's so far away. So to make these like massive claims, I also read a rumor that says that he may just be done wrestling. Like I don't know the age off the top of my head, but if I had to guess, he's probably somewhere in his 30s.
Yeah, he's 37.
So, he's getting to an age where, people start around 40, people start making their decisions on how much time do I have left doing this, so he may be.
For context, though, AJ Styles is 45.
Right. But everyone starts making they start talking. AJ started talking around 40, how much time he thinks he has left doing this. And you kind of start seeing people starting to make plans at least. So I don't know. Like, I just think that I hate jumping to conclusions, especially when they're this far fetched and this far out. Yeah. I don't think he's going anywhere. WWE, the name and the build that he has, they will do everything they can to keep him, especially with Triple H being in charge of talent relation, as far as being in charge of the overall direction, I should say, of the storylines and all this stuff. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on to the backlash recap. If I can, there we go. And I see Billy Ray Milburn's comment, the rumors with Punk coming back, and you guys can read about that. I mean, that's been all over, but quite frankly, I'm over CM Punk, and that's where I'm going to leave my thoughts on that. So, so for our recap, for context, I've not seen every match on this card, but I saw enough to where I know that this was one of the best crowds WWE has had in a long time.
It's up there. It's up there with the UK. With the UK show they
that
did.
crowd was insane. Like, not to jump ahead too much, but when Carlito gets a pop like that, granted it's in Puerto Rico, I get it, but regardless, when Carlito gets a pop like that, holy cow! Like, just I don't know, just crazy. So anyway, we'll get there. But I love the fact that wrestling in general is going abroad, or they're holding events outside of the US. And like I said, I'll bring it back home here in just a second, but I do love the fact that AW is going to Wembley, and I think it's going to be a really good crowd. And I think wrestling in general needs to keep up this trend with, doing shows in Canada, in the UK, even, going over to Japan. I mean, England, obviously. So just a crazy crowd. So, so first match, Bianca gets the win over Io Sky, 18-minute match, retains the Raw Women's Championship. I saw a little bit of this, and I love the element of almost like a temporary heel and face turn for both. Obviously, they're not going to keep that. Well, I wouldn't think they'll, keep that going forward, but it just added a cool dynamic to the crowd and to the match, especially since this was an opening match. So I thought it was good for what it was. The crowd added to these matches a ton. Like, if you took the crowd away for some of these matches, I'd say they're average to above average at best, most of them. But given the crowd being into it pretty much all night, it really added to this card. So I thought it was good for what it was. I mean, I'll give the match a B. So your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, number one, I like Bianca and Io together. I like what they can do in the ring together. I think they mesh really well together. And I even thought that with some of the stuff they kind of got to do with each other in NXT. So I actually really enjoyed the match, and I agree with you. The crowd obviously was for Io, and they had fun with that. And this is one of the cool things about this card. I got to say this as the overall card. The less matches, bigger match feel has been great. It's been refreshing. It was a 3-hour card with, what was it, 5 matches, 6 matches?
7.
It didn't feel overwhelming. It didn't feel like there was too many matches going on. Everyone, I felt like, got a fair amount of time for their matches. So I really enjoyed this, but I will say this. I know that Bianca is a merch seller. I know that people love you. She is definitely the little kid, seller. She's the Trinity, like I was saying earlier. She's the thing all the little girls want to be. And so I do like that demographic. But if you want to freshen up, she just became the longest reigning Raw Women's Champion, which is really a cool milestone for her to have. If you want to freshen it up and have her still be champion, why not have her just ride this heel turn?
Yeah.
That little heel thing. Why not just, I will say this. I kind of liked it because it did give me John Cena vibes from when John Cena was kind of overbooked as the face all the time. And the crowd started to then boo and, started to kind of like, okay, we want that heel turn now. We want that heel turn now. We want that. So I did kind of like that aspect of it, but why not just ride the wave, right? Like, go ahead and ride the wave. Go ahead and have her do a full-fledged heel turn. on this next upcoming, weekly show, and have her start to be a heel now. Now it gives a whole nother dynamic because now you can have faces challenging her for the belt, and you can kind of switch the mold a little bit. So just a thought, but overall, I thought the match was fun. Obviously, they're teasing the breakup of Damage Control and trying to get that out there, and it kind of looks like they might be making Bayley the face,
which is kind of odd.
It kind of looks like they're going to have Bayley be the face, which would also be refreshing after a really long-term great run with Bayley being a heel for the past, 3 years, 4 years. So might be refreshing to have Bayley. They just did it here recently with Charlotte. They kind of gone back and forth with Becky a couple times already. So it might be refreshing to get a Bayley face turn and see something kind of fresh with that. So it was good. I thought it was a good opening match.
Next match, Seth Rollins defeats Omos, about 10.5 minutes. Best showing for Omos to date, and it's not even close. Just Seth's going all out to make Omos look good in this match. I love the ending for it. That all being said, I still can't. I can't rate it super high. I thought the opening match was better than this, so I'll give this a B-, but I thought it was good for what it was.
Yeah, the problem I have is that you keep putting Omos on these pay-per-view cards and on these matches. He's taking the L every single time. So it's not really a believable, like, even David versus Goliath type matchup, or the colossal Omos, or whatever they're calling him. It's like if you were to do that with the Big Show or Andre or Kane or Undertaker, and you're trying to sell them to be this big monster, but yet every time the monster fights somebody, they lose.
Yeah.
Even in your horror films, your action films, the bad guy has to dominate most of the movie, and then the hero comes in and saves the day. You don't have the bad guy lose in the first credit, the first scene, so they're trying to get Omos over, but you haven't him take an L. This, Seth has taken L's for a lot of people. If you wanted to get Omos over, why not have him beat Seth? Why not have him? Not that I'm for it, because I think Omos is trash.
Yeah, I see where you're going. I see where you're going.
From a booking standpoint, why not have him have a win over? Why are you putting him up against names like Seth, like Brock Lesnar, like Bobby Lashley? Like, why can't he have a feud with some of the lower card people and build his way up? If you're wanting to sell me that he's the next Andre the Giant or whatever, you got to sell me on it. You got to make me believe that he's that. And they haven't done it.
Part of the problem was they just kind of threw this match together.
Oh, true. Very true. Good way to get Seth on the card, get a crowd pop, especially for this crowd. Definitely made sense on why they did it. It's just, here's what cracks me up. They protected a guy like the Great Khali for months. For months. Had him going over on everybody with a brain chop and broken ankles. It just, Omos has some athletic ability. Omos has some skill set for a big man. We've seen some of that. But has no personality. You gave him MVP. So there's plenty of tools and resources in his corner, and yet you haven't been able to sell me on one storyline yet outside of the AJ tag title run. That's been his best storyline, and it's because he was paired with AJ, and AJ did a great job of making him look good. This match was only good because Seth Rollins was in it.
Oh, no, I agree. Just in this situation where I was going with this, though, is they kind of threw this together, but then they kind of backed themselves into a corner, because I would say more than likely Rollins is the one they're going to put this new world heavyweight title on. That's just my prediction, but who knows? And if that's the case, if they are going to put the belt on him taking a loss here doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Right. And so my thing with Omos is, if they really want to sell me on him and get him over, send him down to NXT and find a way to get him over.
I agree.
they brought Dabba-Kato back down because they couldn't get him over as a big man either on the roster. You're going to be bringing some names up. You just made room by bringing Grayson Waller up. Eventually, you're going to bring Braun Breaker, Carmelo Hayes. Didn't they bring Von Wagner up too?
Yeah.
Like you just made some room. Obviously, they're going to kind of be there at least off the jump as enhancement talent to kind of get some other people over. But you just made some room. I'd bring Omos back down and actually use him and see if you can't get him over on NXT. Maybe then with a better character development, better mic skills, better training, you might be able to get him over on the main roster at some point. So
next match, Austin Theory retains the U.S. Championship over Lashley and Bronson. I didn't actually watch this match. It was a little under 7 minutes. I haven't gotten a chance to watch this, but this was actually kind of my dark horse match in the sense that I legit thought that because it was their first time in Puerto Rico for a while, that they would have had a title change on the card. And just by process of elimination, that this would have been it. Now, my thought was they do the title switch during the pay-per-view, but then they put it back on Theory just soon after. I mean, whenever. But I really thought that they would just for the crowd, they would have done a title change at some place on this card. Didn't think it'd be either the women's title matches. So again, just by process of elimination, I thought they would have done it here. So anyway, haven't watched the match, so I can't rate it, but your thoughts?
Yeah, there was one spot in this match that actually really scared me. Bronson Reed or Bobby Lashley was on the outside of the ring. Bronson Reed climbed up on the ropes and did he kind of like bounced himself on the ropes a little bit. And then he threw himself back like a splash, but Bobby Lashley was standing straight up and it kind of hit him in the shoulders and then took him straight down. And it just looked a little rough to me. It definitely scared me a little bit.
Was Lashley supposed to catch him or something?
I don't think so. I think he was supposed to maybe be in a different angle though. Either way, it just looked stiff to me. It didn't flow as well as I thought it maybe should have. If they were going to have Theory retain, they did it the right way with Lashley and, spearing Bronson and, then Theory throwing him out of the ring. The thing that I would have done here, though, I agree with you. I think there should have been a title change. And if you notice, 2 of the 3 in this match are in this tournament for the title. Bobby Lashley, Austin Theory, both in the match. Anytime someone's already holding the mid-card belt and then they get put in a title contender match for the main card, automatically I don't believe they even have a shot at winning. So if you wanted me to have a belief that Austin Theory was going to win this tournament or make his way up in this tournament, I would have put the belt on Bronson Reed right here. This would have been a great way to, again, enhance more talent on your roster. You've done a good job at getting Theory kind of back over, at least course corrected him, right? You've course corrected him enough to where he now has a chance to succeed. So I think I would have put it on Bronson here, allowed him to do some stuff with the belt, and then you could go right back to a feud with Theory when he doesn't win the tournament. With Lashley, if he does, he might win the tournament. You never know. Lashley's a name. So, you don't know what they might do with him. But if he doesn't win the tournament, they all go back into that mid-card title feud again. So that's what I would have done. I would have put it on Bronson Reed just for the sake of making any of the people in the tournament a believable win.
Yeah. You have to give me your thoughts on the next match. I haven't had a chance to see it. Rhea Ripley retains the SmackDown Women's Championship over Zelina Vega. A little over 7-minute match.
The one thing I can say here is I love that they gave Zelina Vega a chance to get her flowers. She came out in like the Puerto Rico USA kind of color scheme, had like the robe, but it was like basically a big flag with the Puerto Rico flag. And I just thought it was cool that I think they did a very good job last night of honoring the culture and really showing respect to the culture. We'll talk about that more in the upcoming matches as well. But they gave Zelina a chance, even though it was 7 minutes. They gave Zelina a good look. Like obviously she wasn't going to win. I think everybody knew that going in, but it was just cool to kind of see her get her flowers, and then even giving her a moment to kind of soak it in after the match, after the loss, soaking up that crowd energy and all that stuff. So it was a really cool moment. And I like that if you're going to have Rhea retain on this card, you picked a great person for her to get a win over and still honor the culture and make it a relevant match on the card.
San Juan Street Fight, 25-minute match. Bad Bunny defeats Damian Priest. I thought the match was good. Don't get me wrong. So it has nothing to do with like the celeb status or anything like that, because I'm all behind Logan Paul. I think he was made for pro wrestling. Bad Bunny still just seems like he's, I don't know, not there. Like he's just not. Some of his move execution is just not crisp, or I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. Hopefully you guys that are watching kind of know what I'm getting at, but it's like, I don't want to say something's missing, because that kind of insinuates that, oh, he'll get there, he'll find it or whatever. I don't know that he will. I think he is what he is from an athletic standpoint. And sure, like he's studied wrestling and been in the performance center and practiced and rehearsed and put his time in. I'm not trying to say that by any means, because he knows what he's doing, but I don't know. It just seems off. Like whenever he did that Canadian Destroyer on Damian Priest, just wasn't executed in a smooth manner, or smooth enough manner to where I'm just like, wow, that was a cool ending to that match. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I definitely agree in a lot of ways. Number one, you got to give props to Damian Priest in this match, because he really did a great job at kind of protecting, selling, and kind of carrying Bad Bunny through some of those moments. We also have to remember Bad Bunny is not a wrestler, so to have that big of a spotlight, to have a longer match, not to mention this has been his longest match. All of his other matches have been, he's been in a tag match, they've been kind of quicker, get to the point matches. He had to really pace, and pacing is one of the hardest things to do in pro wrestling. Mm-hmm. You're either good at it or you're not.
Agreed.
And I think Damian did a good job at helping him pace and helping him sell some of those moments and stuff. So again, great way to honor the culture. Thought it was definitely a smart booking decision to put the hottest Latin American, hip hop star on the card.
Not to mention, you're going to sell a lot of those LWO shirts just by virtue of the fact that Bad Bunny wore it.
Yep.
People that have zero familiarity with professional wrestling are going to buy that shirt just because Bad Bunny wore it.
Right. Again, now you are tapping into pop culture. You're getting out of the wrestling world and into the pop culture world. So I respected the booking decision. Let's put it that way. I definitely could. It was not the worst possible thing that could have happened. I think the disconnect for me with Bad Bunny versus a Logan Paul is Logan Paul on all aspects, looks, sounds, and is the part.
Yeah, I agree.
Bad Bunny does not have the professional wrestler look. Logan Paul has, and I'm not saying you got to be jacked. I'm not a Vince McMahon guy where you got to be, 6'3" and 280, and just ripped out of your mind. All right. I'm not the Hulk Hogan guy. And I know I'm a huge John Cena fan, but that was also how he was booked. He was booked to be the next Hulk Hogan kind of character. So more of the people that I can get behind are like your AJ Styles, are your Dolph Ziggler's even. When you look at guys, they have muscle. Adam Cole, that they have the muscle definition. They have a good look. but they aren't necessarily unbelievable either, like as far as their look goes. So Logan Paul has the look. He's got the muscle tone. He's great on the mic. He's practiced. He's put in the time. He has the skill set to match that. Bad Bunny has mastered the need to nose. He has the need to nose down to be able to hold it down in a match. This match also helps that it's a street fight. So all you have to do is throw weapons into it. And that really was a saving grace, I think, for him as well. The Canadian Destroyer was a little rough. Honestly, it usually helps to do it from the ropes, from the top rope, to kind of help get that momentum. It definitely, you could just tell that Damian Priest did all the work on that one.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when you have to set up, there's no momentum to do it. It's not even a believable Canadian Destroyer anymore, because the Canadian Destroyer needs momentum to make it look believable. So, overall, cool. I love I'm a Carlito fan. That was my era. The only thing that bothered me is that when his music hit, I didn't get I spit in the face of people who don't want to be cool. Like, it just had his music hit, and I was like, that's my favorite part. Like, but to give him a moment to hit the backstabber, eat the apple, spit in Dom's face of all people, the LWO thing, the Savio Vega, thing was cool as well. And, they really did a great job at honoring the culture there.
Mm-hmm. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, my criticism of Bad Bunny, I was going to reel it back in and kind of what you said, like, give props to everything else, because this was my match of the night.
It was, as far as overall storytelling, and I think that's another good thing that Triple H has done with these celebrities, is that even though the matches may not be 5-star matches from these celebs, they make up for it in the storytelling. What helped this match? Carlito coming out, Vega coming out, the LWO involvement, Judgment Day involvement. I actually would say, though, I know that for the pop purposes, you have to have Bad Bunny win. I would not have had Damian Priest take the L here.
Agreed.
I really think there could have been a way that you had Rhea come out, that you had continuing the storyline between Judgment Day and the LWO. You could have had Damian Priest cheat in some kind of way to still give Bad Bunny the strong thing. And then also, he can get his flowers afterwards. After Judgment Day leaves, the crowd's still cheering. It's whatever, go nuts, all this stuff. So I wouldn't have Priest take the L here, because Priest has been really a dark horse in WWE right now. I think he's really been holding it down. And ever since he dropped the U.S. title, he's not really been given his respect on the kind of in-ring performer that he is. And so hopefully they start using him correctly too.
We have the 6-man tag match, 22 minutes long. Usos and Sikoa defeat Riddle, Owens, and Sami Zayn. It is kind of what I expected it to be. Teasing the split of the bloodline and dissension there. Obviously, it was pretty predictable that Riddle would take the pinfall in this match if they were to lose, and that's how it turned out. And I definitely didn't see Solo taking a pinfall. Jimmy or Jay didn't. I mean, since they just lost at Mania, it would be really odd for them to lose again when they didn't lose for however long it was, 400 500 some days, whatever. So that was my only issue. It was predictable, but it was good for what it was.
I didn't like the Riddle booking in this match at all. Obviously he was there to take the pinfall.
Yeah. He has no I'm not on board with Riddle anymore in general. He just doesn't fit this storyline, period. And I don't know how or where you peg him in WWE right now that would make sense.
Yeah, I actually thought that he could have actually benefited from an NXT call, switch up to come back down. He needs a gimmick change. I know that he's goofy. I know that he's fun, obviously for the THC community, he's a draw from that the weed smoking and stuff. So I get it. I do. I understand bringing him back without Randy Orton though. He feels dry. That without the RK Bro thing kind of pushing it, it feels dry without him mimicking Randy. I think that really helped get him over on the main roster. If it were me, I would gimmick change him all the way up, though. And I've mentioned this before on the show. Riddle needs to go to like the super serious kind of Ultimate Fighter kind of gimmick where, his hair's not down anymore. He's got it like really nice and neat, tied up in a bun. He's wearing suits out to the ring. Instead of kicking his flip-flops out to the crowd, he like nice and neatly slides them off at the ring apron and then like wipes his feet, goes in. And, he, no longer says bro, but, kind of like what they did with Daniel Bryan. He went from the yes chance to the no chance or whatever. Like, find a way to, like, have him, I don't want to say brother because that's too much of a Hulk Hogan thing, but, start using, like, proper. He talks very proper and he's all business, but it's a more aggressive character. He's breaking arms. He's a dangerous person.
He's having an interview or a vignette or something. He's just like, sir.
And he just showing us that he could be a heel, showing us that he could play this aggressive, I actually know what I'm doing when I'm as far as being a fighter is, because he has all the talent. He has all the in-ring talent. And honestly, I think he has the charisma to pull off any character. But they have him playing this almost R-Truthish level comedic character and then wanting us to take him serious when he gets in the ring. There's only a few guys that can pull off the comedy gimmick for so long. R-Truth, obviously Golden. Santino Marella, obviously Golden. And we could go back on that. I don't think Riddle fits that mold, at least right now. And so if you're wanting me to take him serious, I would bring him back down. He would be a guy that I'd bring back down to NXT. And I would find a way to do that. Or if you are bringing Randy Orton back, I would have Randy be the heel, and I would have Riddle turn on him and say, "You left me hanging. You did this to me. Yada yada yada." And sometimes they like to play into real life. Play into his real life. I relapsed because of you. I whatever. They've done that before. Why not do it now? So, one of those things for me. I don't like Riddle in this match. And I'm kind of done with the KO Sammy Uso storyline. It's getting a little. This to me was the bow. This to me was the tying of the knot. The bloodline story needs to move on without Sammy and KO involved, which I think now they're on separate brands. So that obviously is probably a good indicator that will be the case. But and then also. I don't really care for the solo breakup between the brothers kind of thing. I don't. I know they're teasing Bloodline breakup and all this stuff, but Bloodline's one of those groups that you could keep around forever. Doesn't mean that they always have to be on good terms, all this stuff, but it's one of those groups where I don't think you benefit by breaking it up and having all this dissension. I liked the Sammy storyline where he was kind of causing some of that, yada, yada. But now that there's none of that, I think the bloodline needs to go back to being dominant. It needs to go back to them all being this dominant faction on the roster. And you don't need to have the Usos holding the tag titles to do that. They can help Roman look dominant. Solo can help Roman look dominant until you're ready for Roman to drop the belts.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at.
Main event, Cody defeats Brock. 9 minutes and 40 seconds. It's kind of what I expected it to be. I didn't know how they would get there, but if Cody was going to win, I thought, he'll get some kind of fluke pinfall over Brock, whether it's a roll up or whatever. Sure enough, it was something similar. Got a pin while he was, hooked in the Kimura. the booking makes sense. What I'm questioning is, where do you go from here? Like, do you continue this Cody Brock feud? Does Brock cost Cody during the world title tournament? If so, where do you go from there? Like, my issue is we've never really gotten an explanation from a storyline standpoint as to why Brock turned on Cody in the first place. It's just a loose end that is a pet peeve of mine when it comes to pro wrestling. And the storyline aspect of it is, why did you do it? Did you do it just because you're Brock Lesnar and you can? If that's the case, great. Tell us. Like, give us some sort of storyline reasoning or rationale, some sort of logic as to why this is now a storyline. Or maybe they didn't, because this is just going to be a one-off match. If that's the case, then okay. But even still past that, what happens with Brock now? We know Cody's going to be in the World Heavyweight title tournament. Does Brock take time off? I don't know. I feel like I was left with questions coming out of this match, but also not enough of a cliffhanger for me to just be kind of like, okay, I have to watch, I have to see what happens next. Does that make sense? It just felt like it was oddly executed to make me want to continue to see where they go from here with both guys. Obviously, again, Cody's in the tournament, but then what happens with Brock? Do they just not mention it because he's going to take time off? Anyway, as far as the match goes, again, it is exactly what I thought it was going to be. The booking was what I thought it was going to be. Match length was about what I thought it would be. Yeah.
I mean, the one thing I will bring up in this match that the blood spot shocked me.
That was cool. That was, I don't think that was planned either. I mean, that was definitely hard way.
I think they were trying. Whether or not they were given the permission to, I think him and Cody might have had a talk beforehand saying, hey, I'm willing to open myself up the hard way. All right, cool, let's do it. Because Brock kind of sat there and just kind of kept doing one of these things, seeing if he could get that cut to start bleeding. When it did, it went. Like it was there. So that was a cool little added bonus to this match that otherwise would have felt just like a typical Brock Lesnar versus whoever you want to put in there kind of match. I will say Brock versus a smaller guy is always a better match. It's always a better feel. I don't know why that is, but maybe it's because just they can do a little bit more. But I enjoyed the match. I kind of see what you're saying. They have made it a very, very big point to point out that Brock Lesnar is going to be a free agent. He is the only person in the draft that didn't get drafted because he negotiated that he would stay a free agent, that he could work wherever he wants to work, basically. I think that's interesting to note because it almost feels like they're keeping their cards open for what they might do with Brock. I could go two ways here. With it being this new title that they're unveiling, this new heavyweight title, and we haven't really talked about who we think would be the first champion for that. But Cody obviously is in the top 4, at least as far as names you could put it on. If you're wanting, you got to make that belt feel special off the jump, right? Like if you wanted to get over, just like the Universal title, when it first came out, who did they put it on? They put it on Finn Balor. Why? They wanted the pop. They wanted to make it special. They wanted to. So you got to make this feel special. So there's only a handful of names you can do that with that they currently have in that tournament. I go one of two ways. I could either have Cody win it, go ahead and make him a first time. He's the first ever, version of this world heavyweight champion. Is the inaugural, champion, whatever. And he gets his flowers. He gets his moment in the sun, and he rides this out for a while. Cool. You got the payoff finally. Cody's champion. Plenty of star-studded matches you can do with him versus insert name here. Wouldn't be shocked even if they run it back and do Cody and Seth in the finals for this tournament. Just a thought. But with that being said, I could go that route. The route I like better? I like the route better of kind of what you were saying. Cody's in the finals. Feels like he's going to win the match. Brock Lesnar's music hit. He comes out. He costs Cody the match. Then it's Cody and Brock round 2 at what would be the next one? Money in the Bank, I guess. Clash of Champions, but the finals would be at Clash of Champions. So that would be where the interruption would happen. I think the next one's Money in the Bank.
Probably.
Off the top of my head.
That sounds about right.
Because then that would be July, and then it would be SummerSlam in August. So you could run it back, do match number 2 between Cody and Brock at Money in the Bank, keeps Cody out of the Money in the Bank ladder match because he doesn't need it. He doesn't need to win the briefcase to be relevant. You get Brock gets the win there. You do round 3 at their big, their next big show, which is SummerSlam. Cody goes over on Brock for the best 2 out of 3 kind of thing. And now Cody's all kind of freed up to start building his run to dethrone Roman whenever that takes place. So I'm kind of more on the, I think, was it JR? Was it Jim Ross that said that he agreed with the booking because he likes the idea of Cody chasing and really getting a good build towards being a champion, especially for his first time run. So I'm kind of on the fence more of Cody having to really work through some of these storylines and having these big name these bigger storylines without the belt for right now until you're ready to have him dethrone somebody, whether that be Roman or whether he be the person who beats the first, inaugural heavyweight champion. That's kind of where my mind is. So I could go either way, but I agree with you. I think that they did it the way that they did it because there's still more story to be told between Cody and Brock. The way that Cody won, Brock obviously would have a reason to continue to go after him. In the build to this next match, maybe we could get a sit-down interview or a promo from Brock that explains why he attacked Cody in the first place. To kind of build towards a better storyline and match moving forward. So match is cool. Obviously Cody getting a win over Brock's a big deal. Brock doesn't take an L just to anybody.
So overall, overall event grade, what do you give this?
It was good. It wasn't amazing. I wasn't by any means like, wow, this is amazing. It was very safe, but entertaining card. I'm kind of sitting just at a regular B, just a solid B. It was good. You got to have these kind of pay-per-views throughout the year where they're not phenomenal because if you do that all the time, you always got to one up. It was just a good, clean, easy card.
I will give it now. Granted, I didn't watch 2 of the matches, so if I had watched these other 2, it might actually bring down my grade. I don't know, but I'm gonna give it a B+, just from the standpoint of a couple of these matches. There were no storylines in place until after WrestleMania. That was just a month ago. You had a month to build a lot of these matches. Did a pretty decent job of it too. And
the quick build was great.
And then the matches themselves none of them were awful. So,
right.
Tell you guys what, we're going to wrap up.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
And throw some announcements and such your way. As always, you can find us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch. So just be sure to like, share, subscribe, follow where applicable. We sincerely appreciate it. We appreciate your guys' patience over the last month of very little content. I know that Cole put on our gaming event. Was it
last weekend?
But besides that, we hadn't really done anything for about a month or so. So again, we appreciate your guys' patience. We really appreciate you guys that are sticking with us on Patreon, that continue to participate in our events. We are taking a break from those for the month of May. speaking of breaks, our next 2 podcasts after today will be on. So next week it'll be Tuesday, which I think is the 16th. Is that the right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the right date? And then the week after that is going to be on Monday, the 22nd. So again, next week podcast on Tuesday, the 16th. The week after that, it's going to be on Monday, the 22nd. Both of those are going to be same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. After that, we are going to take a break from our podcasts altogether until the first week of July. I've got a vacation coming up with my family. Cole's got some shows coming up, and we're just going to kind of take a little mini summer break, if you will. And again, we'll return the first week of July. We're still trying to figure out what day of the week it'll be on. That kind of depends on Cole's work schedule at that point, my work schedule at that point, hopefully. And we'll keep you guys up to date on when that'll be. We're still planning on it being in the evenings. We're still planning on it being live, but if that changes, again, we'll keep you guys updated. We'll let you know. We've still got Jake Roberts joining us. The second Monday of July, I believe it was. I think it's the 10th. Yeah. As of right now, Jake is still joining us Monday, July the 10th. I forgot the time on that, but I want to say it was
6:30, I think.
6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central. Again, we'll keep you guys up to date on dates, times, etc. You're always welcome to reach out to us if you have any questions. Join us on Discord. If you need the link, let me know. I think everyone that's watching us live right now is probably already on our Discord, but if not, let me know. We'll post a link. What else? We still have our Pro Wrestling Tees page out there, prowrestlingtees.com/GoingBrdwyPodcast. Let me take this banner off here. The link is below, so check that out. Just another way to support the show financially. We appreciate any and all support that you would be so kind to show us. That being said, again, as far as events go, our next e-gaming event, we do plan on putting one on in June, even though we'll be on a hiatus as far as our podcast goes. We'll keep you up to date on the dates on that, when it'll open, when the actual event will be. So stay tuned on our social media, and we'll let you know. Cole, you got anything else?
Yeah, just keep your eyes out in the Discord. We may just do some small little e-gaming events, like one-off matches, here and there, pending my schedule. And guys, just be as fluid as you can with us. I'm trying to navigate this situation, and hopefully here in the next couple months, I'll be able to kind of get my bearings enough to kind of have a healthy flow. I just kind of walked into a crazy mess, and Alex it has been patient with me to try to find dates that work for both of us. We already lived some pretty busy lives, and this just made my life a little bit more busy. But keep your eyes peeled. We have some hidden prizes away that we might do some e-gaming stuff for. We might just do some gift card grabs and stuff like that. So trying to get better about getting our community back together, because it had been a minute. So just keep your eyes out for that. And join us for these next couple of weeks of the podcast before we take our little mini summer break. And then we'll be back, and hopefully better than ever. So other than that, I think it's time. I think it's been a minute since I've done one of these. My voice is a little cracked because I yelled a lot at a wedding this past weekend. But I'm gonna give it a go. Thank you for watching the greatest wrestling podcast ever. You guys are the best. And until next week, I leave you with your favorite thing in the entire world.
Thanks again for joining us tonight. We'll catch you next Tuesday, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Wish I had a rewind button, but you guys get the gist. We'll see you next week.